Let me ask you something. Are you getting everything out of your rent-to-own business? If you're not an APRO member, then the answer is probably no. Look, advocacy is APRO's bread and butter. This is why they were created and what they do best. But here's the thing. APRO membership is about way more than advocacy. APRO connects you to the movers and the shakers of the industry, people who've been there, done that, and they can help you do it even better. APRO's monthly webinars give you expert insights and actionable takeaways. It's like having a masterclass for your business every single month. Got questions about complex regulations or sticky situations? No problem. APRO's legal hotline gives you direct access to experts who have got the answers. That's a peace of mind that you can't put a price on. And let's not forget the resources, news, updates, and tools that keep you ahead of the curve. Scholarships for your team? Check. Disaster relief when you need it most? Double check. APRO is your ultimate support system in the rent-to-own world. So stop settling for less. With APRO, members get more. More support, more connections, and more success. Head over to rtohq.org and join the APRO family today. Because in this business, more isn't just better. It's essential. See you at the top with APRO. And welcome to the RTO Show. I'm your host, Pete. Today, let's talk rent-to-own with Paul Metivier, FRDA President and Vice President of Impact Holdings. How's it going, Paul? What's going on?
Oh, it's going great. It's going great. I know you had a busy, very busy day, so I'm glad you're here, Pete.
Extremely busy. Now, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
When you are the Vice President of Impact Holdings, how many Rent-A-Center franchises are you guys over? Do you have?
So, it's Impact RTO Holdings, and we have 79 locations. So we have 79 locations throughout the southeastern United States. But it started with 40 back in 2015. So we've doubled in size. We've actually doubled in size officially, I guess. Well, we're kind of one short, Pete, right? But I'm throwing it in there, right? I'm rounding up. We got to round up and be positive. So, we doubled in size officially earlier this year.
So how many stores does one of your districts have? Because we call them district managers. I have like 7 to 10 stores, and I know some regionals, we have them vice versa. So do you have district managers that do like a 7 to 10 store kind of thing?
Yeah, so we call them regional managers. That was just, honestly, it's just wordsmithing, but that was a preference that I had, just from when I was a district manager with Rent-A-Center. So I just like the sound of regional manager. So initially, Pete, they would have anywhere from 8 to 10 locations. We had one situation where we had a regional manager going to 3 different states. So that was a very tough situation. This year right now, we reorged the entire thing. So our goal is to have roughly 6 locations for each regional manager. We're practicing with that, and we're testing it to see if that's the ideal number. So far, it seems to be working out for us.
I'm going to tell you right now, Pete's RTO show vote is 6 is a very good number. 7 is peaking, and I think after that, you're kind of phoning it in, and I don't mean that in a bad way. It's so hard to get around to the stores that you have issues to because there's so many of them.
Right.
I'm going to say that's my vote. So if anybody's hearing me and they're okay with the 6 stores, hey, I got your back. Now, how many regionals do you have then?
So we have 13, and then I have a regional director, Jason Keating. Actually, I got a story about Keatings, and you can give a lot of credit to Jeremy Keating, because Jeremy Keating, I believe, made a bet, right? When we were at FRDA last week,
he did make a bet.
And Pete, I'm not going to lie. Big reason I am here with you right now is because Jeremy Keating walked up to me when we were over in the tent, and he basically said, "Paul, you got to do me a favor so I win this bet. You cannot go on the RTO podcast in the next 6 months. You got to at least wait 6 months." So Jeremy Keating, if you were listening to this right now, you lost the bet and you brought it on yourself. Pete, he motivated me to come join you. Not that I wouldn't have, right? It's nothing against you, Pete, but when Jeremy Keating, and the Keatings, by the way, Jason Keating is my regional director, and these are just wonderful people, right? And I like to say that they're the rent-to-own royalty because the amount of time that they put in. But yeah, he issued the challenge, so he lost. So Pete, he loses the bet, and here we are.
Well, I told Jeremy that I'm going to see him and Dan very soon. So I'm
Right.
going to be able to tell him face to face, you lost.
You lost. Yeah. All right. So getting back on track because I do like to sometimes go a little bit off. But so Jason Keating is my regional director. So the regionals report to him now. And the best thing about Jason Keating is like he just eats, drinks, and breathes and sleeps and he wakes up and he serves our regional managers. And there's absolutely nothing that gets in the way of that. And he's done a wonderful job this year.
Yeah, Jeremy and Jason do both a wonderful job. They've been in this for 19, 20 years, at least both of them, right? I mean, they kind of entered at the same time, right?
I think so. I don't know if Jason entered before Jeremy, if Jeremy came a few years after Jason. Jason actually entered into rent to own before I did. So he has a little bit more experience in the industry than even I do. When I was a store manager, I kind of, I met him. He was, remember, I don't know if you know this, Pete. So Rent Center would do these panels. So if you were interviewing, if you're ambitious enough to interview for your district, right? It was kind of a tense moment. You'd be sitting in a chair in a hotel, and then there'd be a table in front of you with a regional director, perhaps even a VP at times, and almost every district manager within that region. And they'd pepper
Oh
you
my
with
gosh.
questions. And so true story. So Jason Keating, like after one of those sessions, so I actually did not get the first two districts that I interviewed for. Someone else was chosen. Great guys and good decisions. Not saying it didn't fuel me, but what I'm saying is they were still worthy candidates and awesome people. But I didn't get the first two opportunities I went for. But something about Jason like made him just come talk to me after those sessions, and we just got to know each other a little bit. So when I was promoted to district manager, I saw him out first. One thing I was smart enough to do was say, hey, I want to align with him. I just like how he thinks. Honestly, I like how he talks and likes how he thinks. So I scheduled my first manager meeting in tandem with him and set that up. And yeah, from that point on, we've just always had a pretty good working relationship. And now he works for Impact RTO.
I like those kind of stories when you can go back and see how those friendships and the camaraderie and the colleague situations kind of grow and manifest from years and years of experience and being together and kind of going through the trenches back in the day. I sometimes when I hear these guys who have been around a long time and they have those stories back then, it really means a lot to just sit back and listen and see who has done what and who's been where, because sometimes you feel like, God, I'm alone on this island. And then you hear somebody else talking like, you know what? Maybe I'm not so alone. Maybe they do know what I'm talking about. Maybe they do know what I'm going through. I actually do remember the panels. I was never a part of one as far as RAC was concerned, but I do know a couple guys who did, and man, was it daunting. They would just tell me like, oh my God, geez, that sounds pretty rough. But you know what? I want to say that one thing that Rent Center did was they perfected a process, because out of that came some very, very strong and experienced and very, these guys had leadership, and you could tell. And it came from being, kind of forged in a fire. I mean, yourself, like you said, you didn't make it through the first two, and now look at where you are. Because it gives you that, if you want to be there, it gives you that earning and that learning to say, what do I need to do? If I can't just walk on the block, I've got to figure out what I need to do to make that happen. And then here we are, right? So, I mean, congratulations to you. Now, for everybody who doesn't know, Paul's been in the game a really, really long time. So why did you start at the beginning? Where did you start? When did you start a rent to own? And how did that, where did that manifest from, and the levels of where you've been, account manager, store manager, and the sort?
Yeah. So I just told the story yesterday to Richie, my manager over in Ocala, which is pretty interesting. So when I first started with Rent Center, I needed a job. I had just, I was actually in the finance field. So I worked for PricewaterhouseCoopers. I had a finance degree from the University of South Florida. I was in real estate appraisal. And there was the Arthur Andersen accounting scandal that kind of took place. And this is back in the year 2000, 2001. So there was a lot of issues with trust in these large accounting firms at this point in time. And our group is a small group out of Sarasota, Florida, but we weren't absolved from that. So Pat Liardo, this bigwig from New York, he came down and closed our entire office basically overnight. And I had a brother-in-law who worked for Rent-A-Center, and that's Corey Casey. If you ever want to talk to someone too, this man is fantastic to talk to. I learned so much from him. But initially, they weren't going to put me in Corey's store, but then it worked out. So I started in Corey's store. So I was an account manager. I was started entry level doing furniture. Back then, we had to wear khaki pants, a white dress shirt, tie, and dress shoes, and or sometimes they'd allow you to wear kind of like work boots or like Doc Martens, so you didn't drop anything on your toes.
Yes.
But yeah, that was kind of how we came up in the system. And I tell you, I still remember most days of being an account manager, and I still think I learned more in that position, and I was so thankful that I came in entry level. And then worked my way up, so then from there it was, they called it, credit assistant. They called it IO manager. Remember that, Pete? Inside, outside manager.
Inside, outside, yeah.
Yeah. So really it was just outside manager, right? I mean, you were inside sometimes, and then but you got to know service. So you started learning service and inventory and things like that as you kind of get promoted. Then sales manager, and then store manager, and like everyone else. And I was just talking to Felipe. Felipe and I were just talking about you. Actually, he just gave me a call shortly before this call. Felipe Peña Diaz, regional director. He's on the board with the FRDA. I really, really like him. And I'm, I think he's a super talented guy. Very impressed by him. But anyway, this isn't the Felipe call. But anyway, we were talking, just a little bit about this, how so many people say, are leaders born? And some people say, yeah. And I think I started even believing that because I heard it so much. I was being conditioned to believe that. Pete, I was no leader when I got promoted at store 575 in Port Charlotte, Florida. I had good communication skills. I knew how to relate to people. And I think relating to people kind of came from being a part of an Italian family. We're very, we communicate a lot. We hug a lot. We talk a lot. But when I got in the role, I didn't know anything about leadership. I've never led anybody. Most of my jobs, honestly, were very isolated kind of jobs. Now, I was in the restaurant business for a little bit, so you work with a lot of people there, but I wasn't responsible for managing or leading the people at the Venice Yacht Club or anything like that. So when I got in the store, I had a lot of figuring out to do. But Stephen Covey has a quote on that. He says, if you really, what was it? I'm going to butcher this, but it's something along the lines of, if you really want to see what somebody's capable of, put them in a position to see what they have, right? And then you'll find out. And that's where I was given that opportunity at Port Charlotte, Florida. So I managed that store. That store was in trouble. It was losing a lot of money. There was a former Rent-A-Center store manager. I'm not going to say his name, but I do know his name, in the errands directly across the street. Buddy's Home Furnishings was in the process of, they got the permitting and they were opening a store because listen, the Rent-A-Center was not performing well. So they were eating, right? Eating lunch. So Buddy's was even opening a store in the same plaza. Not a very good real estate decision by Rack on that one, allowing a competitor to move like literally 3 stores down.
They should have signed a non-compete on that one.
Happens. All right. So all my friends and everyone that I knew in Rent-A-Center was telling me, don't take it. Don't do it, Paul. Like you're committing career suicide. I don't use that. I don't like using that word, but this is what I was this was being put in my head. But the people that had confidence in me, my father had confidence in me, my wife had confidence in me, and I had confidence in me. So I took it. At the store, so this would have been, and we're talking 2002. So I started in 2001, a month before September 11th. Really, it's easy to remember my anniversary. I think it's August 11th, although don't tell Impact that because I think they have me August 1st and my vacation time comes up quicker. Oh crap, this is on a podcast. They can hear this. Just kidding.
They can, right?
Right. So a year later, I'm running a store, or I'm getting the keys to a store, not running it efficiently at first, Superman cape on. And I just got to work. My father told me the first thing you do when you take over a store, it's very, very simple, fix the back room. He said, but don't point the finger and tell other people to fix the back room. Get out of your dress shirt, get down into clothes you're going to get dirty in, and bring your coworkers with you. You all fix the back room together. And then when it's done, look at it and all come to an agreement. This is how it needs to stay. He said, then from the back room, go to your front counter. Then from the front counter, go to your offices, and then do the showroom. We do that backwards, though, don't we? Sometimes people are like, oh, fix the showroom.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. I know a lot of guys that'll walk in the front door and, oh my God, this showroom is crazy. And you get it done, and then you walk in, and there's nothing organized, nothing set up. And it kind of does I don't want to say set you up for failure, but it is harder the other way around.
Yeah, yeah. And credit is terrible in the store at the time, especially, how tight the Rent-A-Center standards were, right? 5.9, 20.9. So
Yes.
credit was terrible. I think the store's closes were closer to the 29 and their opens were in the mid 30s. The store was not making money. And then it had a new competitor coming in the plaza. But anyway, we took that store. First, we lost a little bit because we had to get some of the things cleaned up on the account management side. I didn't find myself to be aggressive or disagreeable with customers. I just tried to make my expectations clear to them. Like I said, I was a good account manager. That's one thing I'll be a little bit arrogant about. I feel like I felt
I was
dynamic.
a good IO. I was a good IO, man. Let me tell you, I was a good IO.
Not even IO. I don't know if I was a great IO, but I did feel I was a great account manager. And I felt like I can get customers on time and on track without needing to pick them up, but I wasn't afraid to pick them up. So it was, that's kind of what we did. So then we went in a process of fixing the account management. And then after that, when my people understood how I wanted them to communicate with customers, and I was very involved with how they communicated with customers, when they got that down, then boom, they were on their own and there was a lot of trust. That's when the business started growing. And a lot of our growth just came from customer service. We didn't, some people are going to kill me. I know this, probably some of my old rack bosses. Okay. We were at the store that was doing lots of telemarketing calls and tons of mailers. We did them, Pete, because we were told to, and I'm a good soldier. But we were so busy that we didn't have as much time to do all of that stuff all the time. And we had a lot of word of mouth business, and our customers, we won them over. And I knew when we were doing well, when the errands manager, would come in to just chit chat, and then the buddy's district manager came in to recruit me. So I'm like, well, I must be doing pretty well then.
Yeah,
but I was treated really well by Rent-A-Center corporate, and then they asked me what they could do for me, and I said I'd like to be in a store a little close to my house because I was commuting an hour each way. And that's when I took Sarasota Be Rich. And that time I was a lot more confident. I knew what I was doing. So the turnaround in that store was quicker and easier. Oh, I forgot to tell you. So where I took over Port Charlotte, we were we were at 400. Then I took it down to about 360. But when I left it was about 720 agreements. And then when I took over Sarasota Be Rich, that store was a little bit bigger. It was making a little bit of money, but I just knew it had way more potential. So I think that store is about 430 agreements. And we pushed that one to 750 agreements at the time I was promoted. And then it's all over again, right? Peter Principal. Now I'm in a position, I don't know what I'm doing again. I'm not an expert at being a district manager, but I'm the district manager. And I had to get very comfortable with making a lot of mistakes, which I made a ton. And I was a district manager in Tampa, Florida. That's where you knew me. But I was a district manager in Tampa, Florida for 10 years, so from 2005 to 2015. And then I guess opportunity, fate, whatever you want to call it. And I met a man named Shirin Panji, and I didn't know what was going on when I met him. That's probably a different story. We'll be on the phone way too long if I tell you everything. But ultimately, Shirin and I hit it off. We had some late nights texting back and forth before I ever worked with him. He was very, very thoughtful and kind and asked really good questions. So I was very intrigued by him. I liked him, and I think I told him this story. If not, he'll hear it now for the first time. But after spending a day with him, I went home that night and I talked to my wife. I said, I think I'm going to work for this man. And she said, really? And she thought the same thing I thought. She goes, you think he's buying your stores in Tampa? And I said, I don't know. I said, but there just seems like, it just feels like it's meant to go that direction. And I'm a little bit of a spiritual person. So then he offered me a job, and I had to think about that. Because like anything else, you put in a lot of time with the corporation, and you have an upward trajectory also within that organization. You work for a guy like Anthony Blasquez, who was fantastic, and very motivating and fun, right? Anthony, and it's so I had a really good thing. I had a good career. I had people that were taking care of me, that were training me. But there was never going to be that answer of when I'd be able to move up. And I couldn't take a few opportunities with rec because my father's was, outside of my children and my wife, my father was he's my best friend in this world. He was very ill at the time. And he battled through his illnesses and surgeries for a long time before he finally succumbed to him in 2018. But at the time, I couldn't move. I couldn't leave him. My sister and I were all he had, right? So no opportunity was ever going to allow me to move from where I was because I needed to be close to him. And maybe I didn't. He wanted me to go. I couldn't leave him, Pete. I just couldn't do it.
Oh, yeah. No, it's hard. It's really hard.
Yeah, it was more me than him. I've always been big family guy, especially with my direct family. So Impact comes along and Shirin says, you don't need to move. He says, we're llooking to buy 40 stores throughout the Southeast United States. It's pretty spread out. You will travel a lot. He said, you will travel a lot. And you're going to move. And I remember saying to him, why me? I haven't even been a regional director. I'm a district manager for RAC. I said, Shirin, why would you choose me to be your head of operations? And he's just simply said, I like you, and I think we could work well together, and I know you'll figure it out. Pete,
isn't that some fate? That's amazing.
Their family is so successful. They're huge in terms of their success map of what they've been able to accomplish. Their story is tremendous. And I'm not going to tell it because I could never tell it like Shirin. I do my best when coworkers ask, but and so I was trying to figure out how I fit in. I don't know. A lot of people that might maybe listen to this, they might think the same way. Growing up, I wasn't the most confident kid, so you have to fight those inner demons against yourself or your own lack of self-confidence. Like, what am I good enough for this? Am I capable?
Just so you know. When I was talking at the RTO World last year, it was to come across a stat that I didn't really, it's hard when you see it sometimes. Less than 10% of the actual leaders are considered natural born leaders. 90% of the people out there who are leaders have done it through trial by fire. Same thing that you went through, where you have to kind of figure out how to pull yourself up by the bootstraps and figure out the problems. And, you take your beatings and you kind of learn from that experience, and you use that experience to teach the people around you, to lead the people around you, to get them motivated, to get them to the next level. But it's not something that's God-given all the time. Is it out there?
Right.
Absolutely. Are there people out there that can do it? Yes. Are there many? No. It takes people to really have to walk the long road, the road, less traveled, truthfully, because there aren't leaders everywhere. It takes something, and it's usually failure. It's usually looking at the big picture and saying, I'm not going to fail in this moment. I might have failed because I didn't do this or I didn't do that. That's not going to create a failure in me. I'm going to figure out to get around that and keep on going. And you take your licks and you take the experience that you've learned and you take the people with you, because that's part of the leadership as well, and growing and becoming something more. And if Trent saw that in you, I think he's done a good job, because you look like you've done great so far. I mean, you guys have doubled the business. You obviously know what you're doing. I've always thought you were an amazingly smart guy, but I think also you got to remember, and I've heard this 100 times from a lot of different people, the DM role is probably the hardest role there is in management. It's kind of being stuck in between. I mean, would you agree? I don't know. You could tell me differently, but I've always heard that.
Yeah, the jump from store manager to district manager, or single unit management to multi-unit management, is the most difficult to make, period. But you are right about one thing. You never know what you're capable of until you say yes and you take that risk and you take that opportunity. It is true. When you're in the role, you will grow into the role. I mean, how many people are ready to be mothers and fathers? Then they are. And so many of them are just amazing at it. So many people were terrified to take their first opportunity in the store manager role in the rent-to-own store. and then they get the opportunity and they surpass everyone's expectations. But yeah, you are right. That jump from single unit to multi-unit management is the hardest. It's the hardest to have success in.
And yet here you are, sir.
Yeah.
That's
here
it,
you are
man.
too. Here you are
Hey,
too, Pete.
I'm trying, man. I'm trying to swing for the fences. I don't know if I'm making it that far, but I'm swinging for the fences every time. So how many states is Impact Holdings in? Because so you're working for Trent. You're at Impact Holdings. You started with 40 stores. You've doubled that at -1. How many states is Impact Holdings in?
It's easier for me to just list the states and count, but okay. So we've got Florida is most of our stores are our biggest amount of our operations in the state of Florida and Georgia, but North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi, and Arkansas. So I would say, like, when people ask, it's easier for me to say, if you watch SEC football, we pretty much are in every one of those states with the exception of Kentucky, Missouri, and Texas. And I guess now we're going to have to say Oklahoma and Missouri. Yeah, I already said Missouri. So I guess we'll have to say Oklahoma soon. But yeah, we're pretty much where SEC football is played. You'll find an Impact RTO store not too far away.
Now, if you're the vice president of RTO, or the Impact Holdings, is Trent the president then?
So Shirin is the president of Impact RTO Holdings, but he's also famously busy in just impact properties. He's got his hands in a lot. This is a young man that really is impressive, how he takes on challenges. Shirin is not afraid to take a risk, but they're calculated. He's incredibly smart. He vets things out. He's one of the best question askers you'll ever meet. Is that a real phrase? Anyway, if we just made it one.
It is now. We're going to coin that phrase.
And I'm not somebody that kisses butt, nor do I like people that do that. But I have a big appreciation for him, not just because he gave me the opportunity, but because I see his work ethic. Like he'll burn the midnight oil. Like he'll do whatever it takes to make it happen. So now they're involved in home services as well. They just acquired some in Houston and in Florida and Georgia. So Mr. Rooter, Mr. Electric, Precision Garage Door. On top of that, it still have the hotels. He manages a lot of the finances. And if I'm wrong, Shirin, please correct me with Pete. But he still manages the finances, I believe, for a lot of his family members and their businesses. I mean, he's wearing a lot of hats. Now, I will say this, he's put a lot of trust in myself and our team, and our leadership team at the home office. I know you know Sachin Rama, and he's very active at like RTO World, and you see him. He was at FRDA this week, and then Ashton, our leader of HR, Jason Keating, again, I've already mentioned him, but our regional director. So the leadership team that we have as well, he places a lot of trust, and he gives us the ability he gives us the expectation, and we go get it.
Well, I'm going to say it seems like it's been paying off because we've got Paul Metivier who comes in. He's an account manager. He works his way up. He grabs stores. He turns them around. He turns into a district manager. He gets moved up to vice president of Impact RTO Holdings. And then he decides to become a member of the FRDA board and gets elected as president. How is that? How did that feel? How was that accomplishment after everything you've done? How was that an add-on? Was that a cherry on the top?
No, Pete, it wasn't. I didn't want that job. No,
Get out of here! No way.
No, I'm telling you, I will. I'll be honest, and I'm flattered, okay. So I tried to give a little bit of a history lesson at the FRDA because I didn't really get that lesson of what the FRDA was until Kurt K, and more on that in a minute, till Kurt K took me out to an Outback Steakhouse to have a couple beers one night and just say, hey, let me tell you what this is all about, right? And he just kind of broke it down for me. But when I first joined the FRDA as a board member, Rent-A-Center, of course, has so many stores in Florida and every state, so they pay their dues in all these states. So naturally, I think at the time it was Chris Kale Sr., who was the president of the FRDA, And he said, we need to get somebody from Rent-A-Center Corporate and from Aaron's on the board, right? So Rent-A-Center, I don't know how they picked me, Pete, but they picked me. So they said, hey, Paul, you're the guy. And I remember Fred Maddox talking to me, and he was my VP at the time. He goes, hey, you're the guy. You're going to be great. I guess you got to go to Tallahassee here in a month. I'm like, what am I doing? He goes, I don't know, but just go represent the company. Do what you do. Just be you. I'm like, whatever that means, right? So thanks, Fred. But anyway,
Thanks, Fred.
So I end up in Tallahassee, and I realize I'm sitting at this board meeting. I'm the only one there that works for a corporate. And Pete, how it goes, right? Some people don't like the corporate person. They have, some people will judge you before they ever got a chance to get to know you. And it's really unfair, but I felt that in that room. But the thing is, I'm like, Mark Connolly's in a room and he owns all these Aaron stores, and then Chris Kale's in a room and he's part owner of Brent King, of course, with Larry and Paul. But then he's got these other businesses, and I'm in there with the lobbyist who's telling these amazing, funny, witty stories. And, Jamie Slatton's in there. At the time, he's the owner of Buddy's. I'm just in there, and I felt really out of place. If truth be told, I was so quiet. And a lot of people think I'm just this talkative kind of like loud person. I do have a loud voice, but the people that know me best, and they just know I'm actually a little bit of an introvert until I get to know you. And when I get to know you, I open up. And that's obviously why I'm talking to you right now, Pete. I've known you for a little while, and maybe I even avoided being on here until I kind of like had a better understanding of what you were trying to do. And what you are doing for industry. And then it was just a massive respect, and you just put yourself out there. I just got a lot of respect for you, and Dan, of course, when he was with you as well. But so I didn't really know what I was doing, and I didn't feel like I belonged. I felt totally out of place. And that's when Kirk Kay, he said, we go to the Capitol, Tallahassee. I'm not saying anything, and they're talking to these politicians and state senators and House members about our industry, and we didn't really have many issues back then. But the point is, you go to talk about our industry in a positive way at the Florida House and the Florida Senate, so you don't have issues. And you want people looking out for you. So if something comes up about our industry, they'll contact the president of the FRDA, also APRO, right? They do an amazing job of being all over alerts and making us aware of things.
Let me tell you, APRO does a wonderful job at that. And I really appreciate the ability that they kind of take everything and they take the veil off, and they kind of give you what's going on. This is what's happening now. This is what's happening here. This is what we have coming. They've been so forthcoming with everything, and they're really great. A lot of people there are really great. They're really great to work with. They've done an amazing job at making rent to own. We're not the boogeyman. And I've heard that so many times from so many people who don't understand the business. And it's like, you don't know. There are so many hardworking people that make this come together. You have no idea. But when it comes to FRDA, right, because it's definitely not APRO. It's a whole arm of Florida by itself. Is that the main purpose of FRDA? Is the legal part of it, where we go to Tallahassee, or you go to these legal events and try to represent us in that positive light? Or is there actually more to it than that?
No, there's definitely more to it than that. I mean, there's a lot of reasons as to why the FRDA exists, and I can't speak for the founding fathers, right? So I'm just kind of a steward of what they created. But it is a big part of it to go to Tallahassee. And so John Nixon was, and actually his daughter now is our lobbyist, Corinne. But John Nixon, and it was spelled Juhon, like his. So I was mispronouncing his name the first two times I met him, and his wife would laugh. But he used to have a saying, and he would say, "Listen, if you're not at the table, you're on the table." So Sometimes you hear something, right, Pete, and it's just like it sticks with you forever. And I said, "Okay, this is important." And then, so Kirk takes me out to Outback, and we're talking, and he's explaining why it's so important to be a part of the FRDA. At the time, he owned Gator Rents over in Daytona. And it was just interesting as he just kind of walked through, why do we need to be here? Well, because the strong state association is the best insurance against threats to your industry. 100%. Pete, have you ever been to Tallahassee?
Let's take a quick break.
Hey everyone, it's Pete Chow here from the RTO Show podcast, and I want to tell you about a company that's making a real difference in the rent-to-own space. Wow Brands. I've seen firsthand how they approach marketing. And let me tell you, it's not just about ads. Wow Brands builds complete digital ecosystems designed specifically for the rent-to-own industry. Their e-commerce and lead generation strategies are built to bring in qualified leads. And did I mention that they are actively working with the rent-to-own industry while also being members of APRO and TRIB? Listen, these folks are passionate problem solvers. They don't just slap something together. They design, build, and scale the kind of digital retail tools your business needs and your customers actually want. So if you're serious about growing, reach out to Wow Brands at wowbrands.com. I trust them, and I think you will too. I have only been there for a few small things, nothing really big. I think I spent the night there one time for a concert, to be real honest with you. I haven't really been there to take it all in.
What concert?
I want to say it was an Imagine Dragons concert.
Okay, I like you less now. Okay. Anyway, I'm just joking. It's true, but there might be a lot of Imagine Dragon fans out there. My mom likes them, Pete. So you and my mom have something in common. And my Aunt Lydia. My Aunt Lydia loves them. So there you go. Did I rip on you enough? Did I make you feel bad?
Well, small backstory. That's actually one of the bands that it's one of the first bands that me and my wife saw together as we were dating.
Geez.
And so when we saw it, we are completely different people. Me and my wife, like, if you would ever know us all the way down to coming to our home, we are completely different people, but music is usually one of the things that we agree on. And, I thought at the time I was like, it's never going to happen. I like this girl, but it's not going to happen. We got the tickets, we go, and we both fell in love with the music. And from that, I think it built. So anytime they're in Florida, we have to go to it, regardless of where it is. It's like almost like that marriage thing. Like, this is what helped get us here. We're going to go and see it every time. So you can rag on me all you want to, but it caused us to be together. So
this is what they call a paradigm shift, right? To where I thought this is where I thought I was just being funny, but I just failed the first lesson of leadership. So everyone on this call, just understand, I'm really bad at this still, and I got to learn my own lessons. First step is to seek to understand. So when let's start this over again. What concert did you go see, Pete?
I went to go see the Imagine Dragons concert.
Oh, that's interesting. Why Imagine Dragons?
Well, let me tell you this story about me and my wife.
So then we take it from there, right? And see, then I would have never made an insulting comment, and I wouldn't feel like a jerk right now. But
all good.
But again, it's the lessons we learn. But no, so you should come with us to Tallahassee.
I actually really want to. And for so many reasons, because I would love to see the transition of how it works. Because a lot of people say, they're coming after us, or they're coming after our rights, or statute 812.155. What is that going to do for us? How is that going to change things? And I've always been the receiver of the information. Well, we went, or we talked about it, or we had this representative, or, whatever the case is. I so want to see what it takes, what we got to do as FRDA, as owners of our own businesses, as RTO as an industry, to fight for what we do every day. I would love to do that.
Yeah. And have you ever gone to DC on the national side? Have you done that yet?
I have not.
It's the same thing.
I was looking to, you know what? I feel terrible about that, because Jen Troke was talking to me about it in one of the shows earlier this year. We're like, You know what? We're going. And I want to say you went. I want to say I saw you and Josh Jasinski and a couple others. And I was going to go. And for whatever reason, at that point in time, Danny was kind of going through some stuff, and I really wanted to be there for him. So I did not go. And I saw everything. I was like, God, I wish I would have, hindsight is always 20/20. I wish I would have went.
No, you did the right thing. You always got to be there for your friends, especially the ones that are close to you, and that'll be there for you for your whole life. So you 100% made the right decision. There'll always be the next time, right? But if you come with us to Florida, what I'll tell you, when we go up to Tallahassee, and we usually go with a decent group, but it's not so big where it's overwhelming. And we break out into teams. We meet with our lobbyists, kind of get a game plan of who we should or could meet with. Most of the time, you don't meet with the state senator or the rep. You'll meet with their aides. And this is the exact same game plan that you end up using when you go to DC as well, right? The exact same things happen. You bring your economic sheets that kind of talk a little bit about the industry. And you know what they love hearing more than anything Pete,
Tax money?
hi, hi, my name is Paul. I'm the president of the FRDA. Right now, we have zero issues. And when you say that, when you say those words, they know you're not going to ask them for money and you're not going to be aggressive and say, we need this change. When you're not going in there to scream about something, you're just like, hey, we're friendly. We just want to tell you a little bit about what we do, leave some information, maybe take a business card. And if you could do us a favor, well, what's that? If something ever comes up, could you just give us a heads up so we know that we need to get back up here? And a lot of times that's been my experience. So I've not gone up to where it was the statute being challenged. That was before my time. I wasn't part of the national thing where they had the teams of attorneys and all the major brands had to get together to fight for our rights to be this industry. But you do get to tell the stories. And
Well, that's part of part of what I've learned this, and part of what we do is the stories, right? It's almost like a rite of passage. You have to go through this and then you have to tell the story. I always tell the guys when we're on a crazy pickup or there's something going on, I'm like, this is part of the adventure. And if there's any time that you can come back from it and you can tell the story, you have made it part of you've put the notch on your belt. You've made it part of the story, a part of the RTO lore that happens. But you said a stat when we were at FRDA this year, and you said that there are still 25% of the rental dealers in Florida not a part of the FRDA. Is that correct? Did I say that right?
that is correct. So 25% of independent owned stores are not part of our association.
So what do we have to do? Let's say that I'm a proponent for FRDA. I am. And I come across somebody who's actually not a part of the FRDA. How would they go about being on the board, or not on the board, but how do they join? How do they be a part? How would I introduce them to that? Because I would always think that, like you said, the stronger the FRDA, the stronger the dealer association, the less problem you're probably going to run into. How do you bolster that? How do you get those people on the list?
Yeah, so right now they can just go to www.frdahome.com and they can register. And it's a pretty simple process. You can do it right from the site. And a lot of times, Pete, I think the thing that you or anyone else that are members of FRDA, if you really want to help, if you meet an owner and they have a store, just simply ask them, are you members of FRDA? And a lot of times, right, just kind of like people don't know what rent to own is, they might be like, what's that? And then you tell them. And then it's just like, oh, yeah, well, I would be interested in that. So I think a lot of it is just if all of us go out there and just ask our independent, and that's why Felipe called me actually before I got on the phone with you. He was like, hey, I want to help. And that's the thing that state association presidents want to hear. None of us get paid. So anyone that's willing to help, be a proponent, be an advocate for our industry, I'm going to say yes. So yeah, it's really simple in terms of what they can do. So if somebody wanted to, for example, it's $150 per store per year for up to 3 stores. And then if you get to a 4th store, it's only $50 per additional store. So as you could tell, having Aaron's and Rent-A-Center is amazing because their dues help us tremendously. And a lot of times they pay for our trip up to Tallahassee, just Rent-A-Center and Aaron's themselves. And I'll say this too, because I'm on the franchise side, so I'm on the independent side. We need Aaron's and Rent-A-Center to be strong. We need Buddy's corporate to be strong. We need them to be good stewards for our industry and set a good example. Because if there is a problem on a national level, we're going to need them. But even when there's issues at the state level, Pete, they rally and they come. The big companies show up. They show up when we need them, and they do show up with their membership dues too. So we're very, very thankful for them. But then really the pool of everyone else, all the other independent owners, depending on their store size, they pay their dues, and the dues are not that expensive. We haven't raised them in forever, and it works that way. So up to 3 stores, $150 per store, $50 per store for every store after that. And our vendors and our exhibitors, they are $225 a year, and they get access to our dealers, right? So it helps them have a strong relationship also with their dealers. And like, just like the reason we go up to Tallahassee, they're at the table, which is really, really nice when they part of FRDA. And I'll tell you what, I could talk and say so many great things about our vendors. I know I said it in the meeting, but those folks are really, they have our backs, and they're so nice and supportive.
I didn't know this, but a lot of our vendors, and when I say a lot, quite a few more than I've ever really noticed, have actually had backgrounds in rent to own. And when I say that, they've run stores, they've run divisions, they've run markets, they've run regions, they've been, either upper management, lower management, whatever. But a lot of them have been in the industry for a long time. I actually didn't know that. And there's, coming out of my shell and kind of being put in this situation where I get to talk to some of the people who have really helped not only the state, not only a company, but rent to own industry be the industry that it is. I'm just seeing so many more things that I've ever known about. And I'm so thankful that I've been able to be in this situation. I thank God all the time for that. And so if I may, how does somebody get to be on the board of FRDA?
So a lot of times you just have to inquire and let us know that they want to be on the board of FRDA. Then from there, the board members would meet. We would, the person might want to give us a little bit of information about themselves. So for me, the biggest thing for me and for our new board members as well. So like Mike Zager and Felipe, they're our new board members, and these guys are active. So for me, you have to be active. So the old school board members that have been there forever, they can get away with it, right? Although most of them are also incredibly helpful and hardworking, but I want an active board. I don't want to have to go at it alone and take on all the responsibilities for FRDA myself. I know a lot of state association presidents, there's a lot of work that goes into it, a lot of phone calls that come. You have to deal with the inquiries that come to the site from random places. You have to deal with issues that they come up. Most of them are small, but your board members, when they're active and you can ask them for assistance and help, that would be a great way. Also, we're looking for diversity on the board, right? So don't think you can't join the board if you're a store manager or even a store level coworker. If you have a lot to bring to the table, you have a story to tell, we want you there. And
actually, that was to be honest with you, Paul, I'm glad you mentioned that, because that was actually what I was worried about. You mentioned some big names when you talk about Jamie Sladden, you talk about the other guys and Chris Kale and all these guys that are there. And then, I'm like, okay, but it's just me. I'm just a district manager and I work for somebody else. I have my area of expertise. I kind of run the Tampa division. Sometimes things are great and sometimes they're not. Have I been doing this a long time? I think so. I mean, almost 2 decades, but would the board be better for the experience that I bring to the table? And I think that's always been a big question. And I guess maybe that's kind of daunting to people who don't know how to get on the board or what it takes or what do you do on a day-to-day basis. It is kind of a little scary to think that, I would like to try. I'm going to tell you right now, I want to try. The RTO show wants to be a part of that. Now, when I say that, I mean as Pete Chow, the district manager, not the RTO show. But I would love to be on the board, not only to be able to share what happens and kind of just shed the light on how difficult sometimes things can be. And when you get a group together, it's so much easier to get it done, right? When you're one person, it's hard to run a store. But when you have a team, you can make it happen and be successful. And I feel like that with FRDA. If we get the right people behind it, whatever we need to accomplish, we can get it done. So, I don't know if people know that. I don't know how people see it, but I know that, looking at it going, how do I be a part of that board? And even, can I even try? I think it's a big thing out there. So when you say something like that, I don't know. I think you're kind of, you might be reaching out to another generation of FRDA board members that are ready to go.
Yeah. And we need that because, it's real. What happens over time with even board of directors. And again, I've never been a board of directors for a major company, but I think what happens over time, some of these folks have been in position and they've been there forever. So you start losing this different personalities and different ways of looking at problems or looking at things that potentially are good and going right past our noses. But so yeah, we want to have individuals that think differently. So diversity of opinion, diversity of personality types, people that will ask different questions, that will challenge, that we can have respectful discourse. This is the way that I think FRDA can grow more, is by having a a bigger and more active board. And also when you have that, there's accountability, right? And nothing really gets accomplished in life without accountability. So I would rather be accountable to an active board that would challenge me. And likewise, I'm sure the board would like that maybe their president, the treasurer, vice president challenge them as well to do more, to become more involved. Like I said, I never, ever thought I would be president of the FRDA. I remember sitting in my first meeting in Tampa, like I said, Chris Kill Sr. was still president, and I'm watching Larry Sutton, and Larry Sutton was also in Tallahassee that year. And I'm watching Larry and Jamie and these massive personalities and owners of businesses, entrepreneurial-minded people. And then there's me. And I just kept showing up, right? So I would attend, I would be present, I would listen, and when asked a question, I would answer a question. Then I started earning the trust of these very these iconic, I guess we would say, figures, right, Pete? For you and me, they were iconic figures in Florida.
Oh my God, some of these guys, I'm not going to lie, they were on a pedestal for me. You're mentioning some of the names, especially Jamie Slatton, when I had worked for Buddies for a long time. Larry Sutton, I actually sat in his office and I had a 45 to actually, I think it was an hour and a half talk with him. It was actually an interview. It turned into a long talk. I didn't end up working for him at that point in time because it just wasn't right for me. But I mean, the guy was just so knowledgeable. And you look at these guys who've been in the business so long, and it's an admiration for sure. There's some names that, when they say their name, you're like, oh my God, I'm in the room. I'm in the right room. Right.
I remember Jamie Slatton looks at me. We're at dinner, right? So we're at dinner. I can't recall exactly where we were. And he just looks at me across. He's a big dude, right? The big imposing man.
Yeah, he is.
And he's funny, but he's sitting and he just looks at me in front of everyone else at the table and goes, "What's your deal, bud?" So now everyone at the table, this is the entire board, to which again, I was still pretty low key. This is like my first dinner, maybe second. It was my first dinner. So this was not a Tallahassee trip. This was a Tampa board meeting, dinner after the board meeting. He just goes, "What's your deal, bud?" And everyone turns and looks at me. I go, "Well, I'm a district manager here in Tampa. I have 7 store managers that report to me." They were just kind of laughing. And they have all these big stories, and I didn't really have the big stories yet. I just had mine. But what was pretty cool was this. There are some individuals at the table then suddenly were interested in hearing that story. So I told them, I told them about my wife and my father of identical twin boys. And I told them kind of where I started, worked myself to the ground up. Then all of a sudden they started asking me for my opinion on things. And you talk about there's a shift, right? So then all of a sudden it comes the shift to, now you're accepted. So now you're an accepted member of this group. And then you're starting to become a trusted member of the group. And that was a big, big change. And it's quite an experience when you're young and you don't quite know that you belong. And then you start realizing, maybe I do belong. I do belong. It's not maybe, it's I do belong here. And then how I became president, Shirin obviously took that role forever, and she did an amazing job, right? Holy cow. She did an amazing job. And even then, I always knew Shirin, she hated the speaking part, right? Having to get up in front of everyone. That wasn't her jam, but she was amazing at everything. And she kept the state association, always winning awards. That was a lot of pressure to follow. And she was so well liked by everybody.
Well versed, well liked, and she does know the business.
And she's kind, she's kind. And you just know she's genuine, and so is her husband, and so is her daughter. But anyway, not to get too off topic. So she's saying, "Paul, her and Chris Cale Sr. say, we want you to be president." I'm like, no way. So I turned him down, and they'll tell you this. I turned him down for years. And then finally, I can't remember, I think it was Shirin. We just kind of one-on-one, she just kind of pulled me to the side. She goes, at some point it's going to be your duty and your responsibility to be president of this association. And she goes, "And I'm ready to step out." And I looked at her, I said, "I'll do it."
That's a moment. That's one of those moments. That's one of the moments that we're talking about, like that defining paradigm shift moment. Not as bad as the Imagine Dragons, but it's one of those moments where it's all good. But it's one of those moments where you can say like you can directly go back to that because that was a moment when things changed. Just like the moment that when Jamie said something to you, that was a moment. You don't know it when you're getting there. You don't know it when it's happening, but you do know when it's gone. And you're like, you know what? That was the shift. That was the time. So here you are. You finally decided you're going to take the responsibility. How long does somebody sit in a particular held spot? So like, let's say president, how long is that before they have to vote on it again?
I don't know. There's nothing in the bylaws. It's really when the president decides they want an exit strategy. It's time for them to move on. I would love it if there was a term limit, right? I would love it if there's a term limit. There is no term limit.
I actually thought that. Whether it was 2 years or 4 years, I actually thought it was, it came up and then everybody would just have to say yay or nay.
No, so I'm pretty much a dictator, Pete, so I can just ride this thing. No, I don't know. I need to go back and actually check that. But, I don't believe there's a term limit, but when the president is looking to exit, like when Chris wanted to exit, Terry Bevel wanted to exit, and by the way, Terry Bevel, that's somebody I could tell a lot of stories about as well. Between he and Kirk K, Chris Kill, Shirin, and that's not to forget anyone else. Jan Arnett was very welcoming of me as well, but anyway. When a president wants to step down and they're looking for a succession plan, I think they identify the person on the board that they would like to take it. If that person's willing to accept the responsibility and they're comfortable with the role, the board votes on it, and then it happens quickly. That's kind of how it happened for me. So what happened for me was 2019. Great time because the pandemic hit right after that, and then we had no meeting in 2020. Well, actually, I did go to Tallahassee in 2020 because we actually snuck up there before everything went down. We were in Tallahassee in 2020, my first time as president, and a lot of Impact RTO's store managers went up there with me. Craig Caracino, Amina Bathea, Lisa Lohman was there with me. She was my regional manager, went on to become my regional director. And now she's got 2 beautiful children. But anyway, so I did make that, but then our meeting got canceled with COVID. The 2021 was still closed for COVID, and we didn't want to do a virtual thing. And then last year, of course, Hurricane Ian wiped us out. So this has been the first meeting in 4 years for FRDA, and that's why it was kind of a big deal. Hopefully it was a good meeting for everyone that attended.
Oh, it was a great meeting. I'm going to tell you right now, a lot of people enjoyed it. There was a lot of firsts in the room, so not only did you get to kind of do it after it hasn't been done for a while, and you're doing this on, for the first time as somebody who's being seen as a leader, but everybody enjoyed it. Everybody that I was with got to enjoy that together. I thought it was a great meeting. I liked the meeting of the minds, not only because I was on the panel, but because I think there was a lot of intuition there. There was a lot of mentors there. There was a lot of experience in that room, and nobody was afraid to say anything. And that made for such a great environment. But talking about people in the room, talking about getting to where you were, and I know you said this, so you didn't see yourself becoming or getting to this position where you were in life because you thought of a different road, and plans change. So who helped you get there? Who was a mentor role? Who helped you and guided you, or, so to speak, through the time frame of your RTO? Who would you say has left the biggest impact on you or people?
Yeah, to name a few. First is Corey Casey for getting me to join this industry. He told me it's the best industry in the world. He said there's nothing like it. And he said, and somebody with the right personality and work ethic can ride it all the way to the top. So Corey's my brother-in-law. He manages the errands now in Bradenton. It's one of their biggest stores, I believe, in their company. And you'll know why if you've ever walked in there or spent a minute with the man. He showed me what a good store looks like. It's a party. It's fun. You know your customers' names and you celebrate them. Like no one celebrated a customer like Corey Casey. Like this guy was just amazing. But what's also kind of cool is he taught me, like, he gave me a lot of flexibility and to learn and make mistakes. And, you have your ups and downs. People always think, oh, well, you're working the same store as your brother-in-law. That's a walk in the park. No, actually, I think because you are the person's brother-in-law, you might get treated differently, maybe even a little bit, you know what I mean? At certain times. But
Yes. Believe it or not, I've had my daughter actually work for me in my division, and she told me it was probably one of the hardest jobs she had. And, I don't know if it's because you're afraid somebody's going to go, well, you're treating them different or you're being nice. No, that's never going to cross somebody's lips on my watch. Like, it was like, you need to do this and you need to do this better than everybody else. Let me show you how, but I expect this daily. So she did grow in the industry, probably not the same way that you did, but it can be a little bit more difficult to have somebody on your side as a manager, because they do expect more out of you. And I think you want to give more to them because you know that they respect you and they care about you and they're being hard on you for a reason.
Yeah. So Corey taught me what a great store looked like. And then, of course, I just knew how I wanted to do it a little bit different, right? So I put my own spin on it when I got my stores. Dave Silvestri was second. I didn't understand why he was so tough for the longest time. And this guy, you talk about somebody, if Dave was in the Marine Corps, he'd be a staff sergeant, like, especially at that time. Now, I don't, again, I haven't worked with him in a long time, but boy, was he on the process and things. But Dave was also fun. And Dave also knew when to get me out of the store, and he would use me and take me out of my store to experience other locations, whether there was just a little problem or wholesale issues, or he just wanted to get my thoughts and opinions on things. And so he got me out of the store, which was kind of neat. And it was definitely something I would encourage everyone to do with the top store managers, not all the time, because you spend too much time out of your store. Your store, unless you have that next ready to go, it can back up a little bit and cause that manager more stress than necessarily you want. After that, I did work for Dale Chapman, gave me my opportunity. He taught me one of the best bits of advice in my life, which is sleep on it. If you're upset, if something's got you under your skin a little bit, sleep on it. You still feel the same way about it the next morning, address it, but at least you've also will be calmer than you would have in the moment where you were triggered. And I didn't realize this. He took it from a book called Emotional Intelligence. Now, I wish Dale just would have told me, Paul, read that book. But nonetheless, he shared that. That was a big piece of advice. Anthony Blasquez opened my eyes to think bigger, about things. Also, he was so fun to work for. He challenges people to improve themselves. So there was a challenge with him. And he and I, we still have that relationship. We're not obviously as close because we're both so busy all the time. Honestly, I really need to make more time to spend with him. But now look at him; he's running RAC, right? Their operations. So so it was clear to see his star for me. So it was easy to see, but I think he also saw it in me as well, and he allowed me a lot of freedom. And he did the same thing Dave did, but at the next level up. So he would take me to different districts and sometimes send me myself. And that was pretty neat. Of course, Fred Maddox was someone that kind of taught me how to be a people master at a multi-unit level, but I don't want to get too much into that right now. And then Shirin Panji, like Shirin changed the way I think about almost everything. I am a traditionalist to the core. And he got me to grow and stop looking through the same lens. And we would challenge each other all the time, right? But there was
funny you use that word because I have to agree. I think sometimes I see myself that way as well. And I think I've been looking for that word for a while as to what I would classify myself as. And a traditionalist is actually probably the best translatable word to how I feel and the way I see things. I think I agree with you on that one.
Yeah. It sure also got us to just say, hey, don't be afraid. So we try new things. If it works, hey, awesome. If it doesn't work, we stop doing it. What's the worst that could happen? The worst, of course, we don't do this with like people, but we do it with things. So we try things. We get in a lab. He likes to try different things. He's also one that very early Again, I was still a district manager, right? When I was first working for him, that was my level. And he would just always tell me, hey, not everything has to be so urgent. You don't have to respond urgently to like anything. So just give it a minute. Let it simmer. He said, just think about it. He said, let's just talk about it. He said, and this and that. And what was really neat was while I was educating him, he was also educating me at the same time, challenged me to read books that have nothing to do with leadership, you know, just to kind of get out and just, again, see things differently. So general retail or a book on statistics, just get out there and try different things, sample different things.
I think I'm on the stage right before that. I am reading a lot of management books, but maybe soon in that lineup, I'm going to add books that maybe just open up my mind and not necessarily to business. I haven't really thought about that. It's funny you say that because, I try to learn from anything and everywhere. When I was talking to Mike, it's funny that you mentioned it. We were talking about, kind of gaining inspiration from anywhere. And, never being too big to learn from anybody. And I think I'm going to have to try that. I'm going to try that out, Paul, now that you said that. So where do you see, since we're going from traditionalism to kind of having that open mind, where do you see rent-to-own going in the next 5-10 years? What direction are we on?
So, the obvious thing is that it's going more virtual, and we're going to have to adapt to that. But we get to still bring that product to the customer's home to finish that last mile. Where is it going? I don't think I'm smart enough to know or to even forecast. So let me tell you something that I did just read a book called The Art of Thinking Clearly, and there's a chapter in this book. So, Peter, I'm not trying to turn this around and try to throw shade at your question, but what the chapter in the book describes to us is that human beings, even and especially the experts, are the worst at predicting things. We're terrible at it. We always think we're good at it. Right, Peter? I bet you can ask you, hey, tell me something you predicted we get right. You remember the ones you get right, and then somehow we instantly forget everything that goes wrong, that we got wrong. But the book challenges you to get a journal, and every time you make a prediction, I think they're going to break up. I think this stock is going to go through the roof or go down. Write them all down. Your sports team's record. And they said, and at the end of the year, go back and look at all your predictions, and what you'll find is you're wrong 90 to 95% of the time. And they said it's true of all human beings. So I'm not one that really, after reading that book, I don't want to make a prediction, Pete. I think, a lot of times, but I do think, obviously, just like everything else, we can almost see what happens in the normal retail environment and then anticipate 2 or 3 years down the road, we'll probably be there, right? Because we do get it a little bit delayed, which you think would make us awesome at what we do, right? Because we should see how they deal with it and be experts. But again, we still have to trial and error and fumble around with it and get used to get out of our own stuck ways before we get there.
I think it's because we're emotional creatures. I think that everything that you've been through has led you to where you are now. But with saying it, that there is no emotional attachment, it would be impossible, right? Because we are emotional creatures. So if you took the logic out of it, it would be all emotional based. If you took the emotion out of it, it'd be all logic based. And I think if you were talking about logically based, we'd probably be a little bit better than 90%, right? The 90% wrong. But because we're emotional and we do have our ties to what we think our best team is, to what will cause a breakup or not breakup, it's because we're affected by all the choices that we've made along the way, right? And what kind of kicked us in our behind when things didn't go right, when that's not necessarily what they're going through. And we kind of apply what we go through to what they're going through, and sometimes it just doesn't work. So I will accept that answer, sir, only because it's you. Now, I do have a question I don't think you're going to be able to bypass here. So right. I want to know, right? And this is my opinion, and this is how I see them, but you can always tell me differently. But the question more is, Chris Cale to me was always somebody he was a futurist. He was somebody that can look at the next couple of years and not necessarily determine where rent-to-own's going to be, but he can look at financials, he can look at sales, he can look at the churn of what's going on and say, I feel like it's going this way. And you've mentioned it quite a few times. Shirin was very organized and kind of put everything on track. So what's going to be your mark on FRDA as president? Whether you walk off stage one day and say that you found a successor, or to this day, what do you feel is going to be your mark that you're going to leave on FRDA?
Oh gosh, what is going to be my mark that I leave on FRDA? Well, hopefully I just did one with Kirk K Award, to where we better remember those individuals that really were great and maybe better than we are, and find a way to memorialize them. What will be my mark on FRDA? Honestly, it's like anything else. I just want to, leave it in a better position than maybe where I found it, which is really, really going to be hard to do considering when it was given to me, it was in such great shape. But as the FRDA, I mean, it's not about awards or anything like that. I would like to get us up to about 90% membership. I want to have a younger, more diverse board. I want new ideas and people, especially some younger people, to come in and really fuel this thing and make it what it really can be. So I guess I want to be that perfect transition to the next wave of leaders in our industry. And Pete, I think that's like what maybe guys like you and me can be. Are those individuals that try to set a good example. I don't want to say set a good example because I do make mistakes and I get it wrong. But that younger generation that already knows how to communicate with technology way better than I did, because I still don't know how to handle all the information that's at my fingertips every day. I try to look at things very pragmatically, practically, but getting them prepared. So I guess that's what I want to do. I want to fully prepare the next generation of FRDA board members and members that want to become board members to know what they're getting into, to know what they're responsible for, and to encourage them to take us into the next centuries. That's what I want to do.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Awesome job. But I will say that I think you're doing an excellent job as of right now. Just having Felipe on the board and entertaining different ideas, such as a podcast talk show host being on the FRDA board. I'm gonna tell you right now, it's something that gives people something to look forward to. If I ever got on the board, the truth is, I don't know if I'd ever make it to president, but it would be my goal to try. But if I could ever be on there, I at least want it to be known that I did my best to be an ambassador to get those people who don't know about it to know, and to get them to be a part of something that they might have never been a part of because nobody reached out their hand and just kind of pulled them along. And, so I got a lot of respect for that answer. I really do. Now, you've mentioned several times the Kirk K Volunteer Award.
Yeah.
As the Kirk K Award. That was something that was first at this FRDA meeting in Tampa 2023 this year. Can you tell me a little bit more about that and tell us, what brought that on? Kirk seemed to have played a really big role in how you saw things and how the FRDA was. What's the story behind that?
Kirk was my mentor. So he was my mentor. So, you said people that I never worked with Kirk, so I couldn't list him as, operationally he did this, but he was always the person on the other end of the phone specific to rent on things when I needed him, he was there. And I found out he was that for so many people. Like I said, he taught me what FRDA was all about, took me under our wings. It just so happened we also both were Tennessee Volunteer fans. And I know that drives a lot of the board nuts. So you're, the head of the FRDA is a Tennessee Volunteer fan. But that being said, so we had that connection, and I met his son, and we went to a few games together. We would hang out. Most importantly, whenever I was feeling a certain way and I couldn't get out of my own head, related to rent to own, he was the person I could go to outside of Rent-A-Center to get that different opinion and tell me what I needed to hear. So Kirk was obviously owned Gator Rents. They had, I think, 3 stores at one time. And Cecilia she could tell me if I'm wrong on that. But I think it was 3 stores at one time when they were at their biggest. And who he was, though, was not what he did. It's what he did outside of work, mission trips to Haiti when he had vacations. He was a good father. He was an excellent husband. Cecilia told me, she said, every day in her life with Kirk K, she laughed. Can you imagine that?
Doesn't that say something? I mean,
And
isn't
you're
it?
funny, right? You're a funny guy. I like to think I'm a funny guy. Do you make your wife laugh every day?
I don't know if I want to answer that the right way, either at me or with me, but she might be laughing every day. I doubt the same way that you're talking now.
Oh, it doesn't matter.
But
I mean, sometimes if they can laugh at us, and that's one thing about you and I, we don't care if they laugh at either. It's okay, But like Kirk was just he was this person for so many people, and you started realizing it. And what had happened was he passed away, so we lost him. We lost him in late 2021. And immediately, and maybe it was emotional, like you just said, we're emotional creatures, but he he makes me emotional. Even now, like talking now, I'm pacing around now and sweating. Uh,
well, one of the reasons I asked, because I could tell during the meeting that you had a very big attachment to this award that was given away. And for everybody just who's listening, we want to paint this picture. I want to paint this picture. We're all sitting down and, Paul is announcing the Kirk Kale Volunteer Award, and it was presented by Cecilia Kay, his wife. And
right,
I could see how emotional that it was making some people. And you,
right,
Paul, I could see it. And it commands a lot of respect, because when somebody passes on, it's already hard enough. When you're talking about 2 years and you're talking about industry, we're not talking about family members. When we're talking about industry leaders who see a lot of people a day, they talk to a lot of people. We command thousands of people a day from above. And you get used to talking, you get used to seeing people. When 2 years later, you're giving an award in the name of somebody who can still get you emotional, that means that they've done something to you. And that is something that's 100% genuine.
yeah,
And so when I saw that, I made sure I want to talk to him about this, because you could tell when she was talking, his wife, that there was a lot of pride, that she took pride in talking about her husband and talking about the business that he was a part of, and how everybody, it was great to see everybody stand up and applaud that.
yeah. And then from her majestic speech and how she could even keep it together, she was shaking, but her voice didn't. I was stunned at how she commanded that room, and I had
She was
so much
very
respect.
steadfast. She
Oh,
was so steadfast.
she was a rock. And then Mike Zager and the emotions that come out of Mike, and Kirk loved Mike, man. He talked to me about Mike all the time. Tell me he's one of the good ones, Paul. I got to introduce you to this guy. And I met him for the first time at the College Football Hall of Fame in Atlanta when RTO World was out there. So, and I met Mike there, and then I'm gracious that Mike is part of this board now. And then the Buddies team showed, right? Like
Yes.
Michael Bennett and all the team. And of course, the recipient of the initial Kirk K. Volunteer Award was Teresa Hill. And when you heard her story and where she came from and the things that she does, it reminds you, like Kirk, like there's some people that their lives aren't defined by their titles of what they are at work. They are clearly defined by a bigger calling in life. And I'm not trying to be religious here, just religion's aside. They have a bigger calling than most. And they answer the bell time and time again. And there were so many good nominees, right? Reed Cahill and Jimmy Palomares and Daniel Ruiz Perez for my organization, Gemma Lawrence. But there wasn't enough. So Teresa and Mike Zager, I believe, they called everyone out in that room too, right? That's a challenge. So here, if anyone listens to this, or you can cut out this part, put it on its own. That award means more than what you might think. This man, and then Teresa Hill being the first recipient, they stand for something way bigger. We can all do so much better for whatever organization you support outside of work, or just hold the damn door for people when you go into a restaurant. Be kind. When you're in multi-unit, it's easy to start getting pigeonholed into noticing what's off. Take time to realize what's right. Get to know your people. And I want to see 30 nominees. And I want us to all have to sit around and go, I don't know. And who gets to make the final choice. I mean, the board votes, but Cecilia picks. And I almost want to
wow.
I almost want to make it to where hers counts as two. So just if there's a
Yes,
tiebreak
I
situation.
can so understand that. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
I'm not going to lie. At the end of that, and I'm looking around and I hear these names, and I've known of Teresa Hill for years because I worked at Buddy's, and just seeing all
right.
these names, and I'm like, am I doing enough?
No,
It really made me think that, like I'm going through a lot and I'm trying to do the show and I'm trying to be the best DM that I can. And I'm trying to take the guys that I think can really be next level and kind of get them there. And I'm still thinking, wow, after hearing this and after seeing this, am I doing enough? And, I'm not going to lie, man, I got kind of a little shook to the core and just, I think I can do better. When I see somebody stand there and represent a man who was doing better, I feel like I can do better. And that speaks to a legacy.
man, we're capable more. We're capable more with our families. We're capable every day, have an opportunity to be a better father, better husband or wife, significant other, friend, coworker, boss, what leader, I don't care, whatever you want to call it, subordinate. We're capable of son and daughter. Like, we're capable of more. And I'm not trying to get this topic obviously it gets me emotional, but it really was, I wasn't able to be at his funeral and that killed me. But Mike Zager was, and Teresa was there too. And I got feedback and obviously I'm remained friends with his wife and his son, Will. We text each other during college football season and baseball season. So that's what I used to do with Kurt. So that's pretty cool that we still have that kind of connection. But I don't think our industry does enough to recognize the people that do things outside of it. You get what I'm saying, Pete?
Oh, absolutely.
And I think if the stories of who we are got out as much as what we do, then I don't think our industry would ever be in the crosshairs. Like,
I think we should always be interested in bringing who we are to the forefront. And sometimes I think that we harden ourselves because of what we're going through during the day or things that we see online or whatever the case is. And I think sometimes we got to just humble ourselves and remember everybody's going through something. What can I do today? And,
right.
Danny and I had covered the family effect, and we're probably going to cover it again because I talk to Danny all the time. I mean, he's one of my closest friends, and
right.
regardless of what he was going through, and regardless of the fact that he's not here right now, I talk to him about everything that's going on. Even though I have the rights to the show, and even though he's not a part of it right now, he's always been a part of it, and he's probably going to always
right.
be a part of it because he's helped me get here. But we're probably going to do another Family Effect Part 2 because there was a lot that we didn't get into. We were kind of like new at it, and we just weren't sure how to cross that bridge. And being able to see that there's so much more in the rent-to-own space and that people genuinely care. And it's not just the family that kind of goes through it, but it's the family that you create as well. And I think we kind of talked about more about the family and not just that, but it's also about the family that you create and the people who leave the mark on your life or the lives of the people around you. And it sounds like, Kurt K was one of those guys, and you don't come across them every day. They are diamonds in the rough. And it's nice to know that at least we can say that was the role model. That was the key. Let's do better. And I commend him and I commend you guys for having this award. I mean, that was great. And that's amazing, to see. And I really am glad I was a part of that.
Can I brag on someone real quick? And it's
Absolutely.
a member of my team. So I want to tell you a story about Pat Thomas. Pat, I hope you get a chance to hear this because you'll know how much, I think she knows, but how much it just touched me. So my father, who I talk about a lot with all my team, I'll promise you this. I think, Shirin, he and Sash came to his funeral. But if all my team, I feel like they probably know who my dad was. They almost probably hear his own voice because how many times I quote him on the advice that he gave me over the years. But one of the things that he was a devout philanthropist for was St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital. So my father, he had one point where he did get up to district manager, health issues set in, he took a step back. So he was in the automotive industry, right? So he was a mechanic by trade, U.S. Marine, became a mechanic for his career, worked his way up through management, learned along the way, when health issues set in, he actually took a step all the way back to assistant manager, but he wanted to keep working as long as he could. And even when his paychecks got like cut down significantly, he would donate 20 to 25% of what he made to St. Jude's Children's Hospital, Memphis, Tennessee, which is where I was born, out of every check. And obviously that legacy lives on with myself and my sister. Don't get me wrong. But, when he passed, I am in a position, and this is, again, one of those things where my career with Impact enables me to give a little bit more because I make a little bit more, right? So I'm able to give a little bit more to St. Jude's than maybe I ever thought imaginable at one time. But I'm on the phone with Pat, and she just mentioned something about doing a fundraiser with my Region 5 team. Without me knowing it, Pete, that team did a fundraiser in store, raising money for St. Jude's, and bought a plaque in my father's name. You talk about,
wow.
Can you, like, even now, I can't believe. So when we just talked about like Kurt K, there are people in our organizations that do these things quietly and no one ever knows about it. And I've made it a mission recently. I just, when I've been going on my visits now, again, I've got this amazing leadership team. I've got amazing regional managers. And these people they're accountable and they're fun and they care, right? So as a result, when I get out in the field, I don't have to be the regional director anymore. I can be the vice president of operations and truly take the time to get to talk to my managers and my staff if they're able to, if they have time to sit down. And we get to know each other a heck of a lot better. We have these folks in our organizations doing things like this all the time, and we're completely oblivious to them. And we need to become aware of them, and then we need to get their story out. So yeah, I know we're going on for a little bit while about this one, Pete, but I appreciate you allowing me to talk about this.
Oh, absolutely. I can definitely tell that it's something that means a lot to you, and it meant a lot to a lot of people in the room. So I definitely want everybody to understand that FRDA meeting that we had in Tampa at the Westin Hotel 2023 was a great time to be had, not only for the vendors, not only for the learning, but for the emotional situations that we got ourselves into and recognizing the greats in the room of the greats in the room. And it's always easy. It's always great. Now, that was the day we also had the meeting of the minds. Now, did Chris Cale Jr. tell you that I was going to be on the panel? Because I asked him earlier. He's like, no. Is that okay? Do you need permission? I'm like, hey, I'm not saying anything. I just want to make sure that Paul knows when I walk up in the front, he's not gonna be like, Pete, what are you doing up here? So
that's exactly what I thought, Pete. I was like, what are we bringing the Imagine Dragons dude up there for? No. He told me absolutely. Chris, by the way, Chris Cale Jr. is that guy too. You talk about somebody that just for me, and I've gotten to know him and I've met his family. Actually, we went to our families got together once and went to Selby Gardens here in Sarasota. It was really nice. And his wife is lovely. His children are great. And he's just a guy that's just so easy to talk to. So smart, right? He's so smart.
He's actually exceptionally smart. I think he downplays it quite a bit.
You sounded surprised when you said that. I'm not surprised. I'm just kidding, Pete.
The way he is, because he talks very subtle. But right. You can tell by what he says and how he says it that there's a lot more going on in the background. And I don't know. I mean, maybe that's just his personality. Maybe, he seems to play it down very well. But he's just as smart. I mean, they are very intelligent, very business savvy gentlemen. And I know where he gets it from, and he does it very well. I actually when I talk to Chris, just like his father, I always take something out of it. Somehow at the end of the conversation, I can take a nugget away from that and go, God, why, either I didn't know that, or I should have known that, or I should think this way. And that's why I always find it exceptional when I have the ability to talk to them, which I do plan on getting Cale Jr. on here very soon. His wife that you mentioned, who is very nice, actually got him to say, yes, he'll be on the show. So he will be on the show eventually. I don't know when, because we have RTO World coming up, but there's so much going on, but I want to get him on it because he's very, very smart and he brings a certain light to things. So we're on a meeting of the minds. Again, I want to paint this picture because now we have this panel, and Mike Gavita does not make it, So it's Chris Cale
I know,
Jr.
and that's a shame, right? Because he's a guy that's been so helpful to me. And then there was a situation he could not get out of the store. His store manager, I don't want to air anything out, but his store manager had a situation, and Mike had to be there, and he couldn't be here. And that was one of the things I really missed about this meeting. But yeah, so now all of a sudden, Mike Metivier is not coming.
So Mike's not coming. So then Chris Cale Jr. is there. Felipe Peña Diaz is here, the regional that you mentioned earlier. And then you get Mike Zagler to be on there. Was he originally going to be on there?
I think no, that he was kind of a late addition. So if you notice on the slide, your name was up there.
I did notice that.
Wasn't. But yeah, so then he ended up there too, because what Chris wanted to do is he kind of wanted to moderate and then have three experts on the panel.
I thought it was a good idea.
I'm not
gonna lie. And so he starts going, and of course, when I go up, I'm like, I don't know if Paul has. I saw my name on there, so I was thinking, okay, we just took a break. Maybe he ran over to Paul and like, hey, fix the slide, and I'd be on there. So because of course, as I'm up there, and Mike says something about the RTO show, it was like, okay, now I really know nobody had any idea that I was going to be here. So he mentions that, and of course, then I say it, and it worked out great. And I'm going to tell you, I love being on the panel. Sometimes I've taken this, and I want to say it's from Will Smith, and I could be wrong, but I'm trying to learn, and I tell my guys this all the time, to be comfortably uncomfortable. You just have to get used to that first 5 minutes of being uncomfortable, and then you just get it out. And on the biggest success is on the other side of your biggest fear. And I hated standing up. I'm not gonna lie. I kind of agree with Shirin on that. That was something that I was never, ever good at. But I realized that I wanted to tackle that. And now, and I'm going to say this, going to come back to haunt me, but I relish in it because it does, I get scared, right? You go up there and you get nervous and you're worried, but I want somebody to know what I know. And I want to present what I know in my head to people in a way that's going to make them go, you know what? The light just turned on, or you know what? That's a great. And then, like you said, be able to go back and forth and say, Pete, that's great, but, and everybody be able to, because there are people in the back of the room who don't want to say anything. They don't raise their hands even though they have a question, or they don't raise their hands because they don't know it. And I want to be that guy who you can say something, and if you don't know it, I will do my darn best to make sure that you understand it. And if not, if you need to put me in my place and I'm wrong, absolutely. This is why I feel that way. Tell me why you feel that way. Let's talk about it. And now, again, I'm speaking in RTO world. Thank you again to Jen Troke, who is absolutely amazing.
She is.
So I'm going to get over my fear just a little bit more, but I can't wait. I can't wait to be there and do that. So the meeting of the minds was absolutely great. I appreciated the call out by Mike. I don't know if he meant to do that intentionally or not, but I've never met him before. He seems like a great guy. And then, and then we get Rick Gallegos. So the great attention from Rick Gallegos.
Before we get to that, I've got to give you all some kudos. The meeting of the minds had 5 initial topics on the slide that were the biggest questions that were asked when people completed their surveys when they first, were signing up and registering for the event. The meeting itself, this is one of the things I was most proud of. You all really never got to even question 2. Because
we didn't.
Because the participation in that room, no one was afraid to talk. So you have what? I don't know the exact count, 80, at least 80 managers, right? And just from different companies, corporate, franchise, all competitors to some degree, although we do need to get a stronger Aaron's contingent. I think we all need to work on that because we need to hear them. But in terms of everyone in the room is just speaking up. And I went to the back of the room, right? Because I wanted to make.
Yeah, I did see that.
I want to make sure Rick Gallegos, he was cool. Like, I know he was, I was like, did I get the wrong time? But when I'm standing back there, I just have my arms folded. I'm watching you guys rap. And I'm watching a room that's like so engaged that an hour went by at a snap of a finger, and all we ever talked about was hiring, employee retention, engagement. We never even really got to sales. I mean, you tried to help us get to sales.
I tried. Did you see that? I tried.
You tried, man. But it was okay. Sometimes it's good to just talk about the most important thing. The foundation is always people, and there's maybe other fun things in strategy, or we could talk about different things, but the conversation was on point with that. People were taking a lot away from it. Engagement level was high. You guys did great. I told Felipe that. Obviously, I told Mike that, and Chris Kell Jr. the same. It was well done, even though maybe you guys don't have as much time as you'd like to plan. You certainly didn't. You found out the night before. So I put you on the slide the night before. Mike finds out literally the day up. He tells me, hey, I hope it's okay. I said, absolutely. Like, I'm glad you did it, Pete. Now, I'm also glad to hear as well. I never knew that. I always thought you were a big time extrovert. I thought you liked being out in the light.
You know what? It's crazy what you learn about yourself as time goes on. You think you have these things, and then when you experience something new, I would have never, a year ago, I would have told you you're crazy if I'm going to be on a podcast. I would have told you you're crazy if I've ever speaking at RTO World, let alone a second time. I would have told you you're crazy. If you call me the day beforehand, I would never be able to be on a panel. But I think I've never been able to get that out of my head. But your biggest success being on the other side of your biggest fear, to me, that has pushed me to want to be there and to be comfortably uncomfortable within my skin to say, I don't know everything, but I can tell you what, I will stand up there and do my damned best to make sure that everybody understands that what we have done or what we put together or what we say to you is the absolute most that we can come up with. And if you have something else, let's do it together. Let's be a part of this together. I agree. The participation was great. Now I'm going to tell you the Jeff story from Jason Winters.
Yeah, we got to rewind the Jeffrey story, right?
I'm going to tell you that was the best story because although it was hilarious and although this is happening on screen and he's kind of, just presenting it, I'm watching in my head ideas and things that have happened in the past that are so spot on with this story. And it's just like, oh my God, it was hilarious. And so when I get Jason on, it's one of the things we're going to just absolutely discuss was the Jeff story. And if you guys don't know that story, it is going to come out in one of the future podcasts, but the Jeff story by Jason Winters was amazing. The slideshow was amazing. And of course, his commentary was spot on, right? It was so funny.
He's so funny. And Jason is one of the best storytellers that you're ever going to meet. I probably shouldn't say this, but I always do say it. I say it to him all the time. Listen, man, I'm not the best presenter of comedy, but I think I can write it pretty good. But his way of presenting things in a way that's impactful, and he can touch it too. Don't get me wrong. It's not all fun and games with him. But when I say he's one of the funniest people I've ever met in my life, I 100% believe it. And he's great with impersonations too. And he is, I don't know how he got this, rough New York accent, but he has it. I don't know how. I don't think he was born or ever spent any time in New York, but he has it. And Jason is he's smart, and he brings that story to life, doesn't he? And you're right. We've all had or had Jeffrey working in our store. And the fact that one coworker can absolutely salt away the entire culture of everything you're trying to do, and you may not even know it, it's a story that needs to be told. And for everyone that goes to RTO World, Jason Winters obviously will be giving that presentation at RTO World here in about we're 3 weeks away, aren't we?
Yes.
You get to see it again. I think that room should be standing room only. I mean, it's worth the price of admission, and it is 100% his PowerPoint slide deck. He is, and he's a smart guy. He even brings depreciation and how this thing affects you financially, not just in terms of broken relationships and salting away customers. He talks about the financial impact as well during the presentation. No one can deliver it. I kept checking on him. I'm like, hey, just want to make sure you're not allowed to get sick, so don't go anywhere this weekend. Keep yourself in a bubble, because if I have to try to do your presentation, there's no way. We just would have lost an hour worth of very important content. And so many people loved him, and they loved the story, and they should, right?
Well, I tell you what, when I was saying earlier, there's less than 10%. When it comes to certain values, I'd say he was born with that gift. You know, some people just have it, and some people don't. And the way he delivers it, the way he talks about it, how passionate he is about it. I can't wait to get him on the show, to be honest with you. It's somebody that I've wanted to get on. We just have so much going on from FRDA going into RTO world. But I definitely want to take some time to sit with him and just get him and pick his brain a little bit, because he's been doing this a long time. He is doing very well. And he does bring a side to it of humor, but seriousness that kind of marry each other very well. And that's hard to do sometimes.
He's a humble guy too. You know, he's not lying. Like, he'll tell you flat out every mistake he's ever made in this industry. He'll share it. No, we're obviously he's a good friend, and he's a great regional as well for us. And I'm just glad he's getting his name out there and getting the story out there, because he needs to get out there.
So rewinding a little bit, FRDA was on Tuesday. So Monday night, we all get together for a social event at Rick's on the River. Right. So we all get together. We all get our tickets. We all get on the boat. The drinking boat is 100 heavy. The non-drinking boat, I don't know if it ever sailed.
No, we never even got on it. Yeah.
So we all get on the boat. Of course, there's a bar on the boat. We're handing out tickets. Everybody's starting to have fun. And then it all starts loosening up, and everybody just starts having a really great time. So talk about decisions to be made. I want to say I enjoyed myself with a little bit more of liquid courage than I thought than I did. But everybody had a good time. And that's part of it too, is that, you know, sometimes we work hard. I don't want to say play hard, but you got to remember those moments and you got to enjoy them. And seeing everybody together from APRO, seeing Charles there. Charles Smitherton is going to be on the podcast very, very soon. Yourself, Jen, a lot of the greats, like you said, ex-presidents like Kale, and Shirin.
And Larry Sutton showed up. I know they couldn't be at the meeting, but they were there for that. Chris Kale Sr. was there for that.
Yes.
I mean, you know, Larry and Paul Shaler, Larry Pivotal, they were there for that. You know what I mean? It was in terms of RTO, it was like Celebrity Row. It was amazing. Yeah, that's the one thing that, so if you're ever president, that's the one thing that does kind of stink, because you have to bounce around just to kind of say chit chat for a brief second with everybody. You don't really get to have a lot of deep, enduring conversations when you're in this role, right? When you're at that event. But it did seem to me like there was a lot of that going on with everyone else, and the vendors too, right? The vendors showed up en masse, and it was really cool.
Well, I mean, I met Keith Brock for the first time. We actually did a podcast after that, but I met Keith Brock for the first time, but we had talked before. I would tell you I want to say a little dirty secret, but so Larry knows somebody, right? So Larry knows somebody who has one of those yachts right outside of Jackson's on the Tampa Bay River. So after we leave, we go back and he's like, hey, my friend, man, I hope I don't get anybody in trouble with this. So Larry, I do apologize. He said, my friend.
Hey, just call him and edit it out if it's going to be a problem.
Right. I had to call him and say, hey, but so he's like, he knows somebody who's, I'm not even going to mention the boat, but you know, he knows somebody who owns this boat and we can take a tour. So afterwards, all the guys, it was me, Keith, Amberly, and Larry. So we all go on this yacht. It's a 95-foot yacht. That's as close a description as I'm going to give you. But this thing was amazing. Amazing. And so, you know, it's funny when you mention the owners and stuff and going out, you get to let your hair down and just be a person for a while. But it was so nice to get out there. So after we come back, and I'm going to tell you right now, I had a lot of liquid courage at that point in time. And so we go on the boat, and so I'm on the boat and we're all talking. We're on the back deck. And so people start coming up to the boat. Now, of course, usually those boats don't have anybody on them. Usually they're just docked there and you don't really see anybody, or you see a deckhand or whatever. So we're on the boat and we're all talking, and these people start coming up and start asking questions like, I have anything to do with this boat, right? I don't know the bow to stern. I'm just standing on the back. And they start asking these questions, and here I'm just answering the question. Yeah, I'm telling you what year it is and what kind of boat it is and how long it is and how far it could go. They don't know, like 2 minutes earlier, the guy was giving me the whole rundown of all the questions I'm asking him. I'm just reiterating the information. It was
and you remembered, crazy. Even with the liquid courage, like you remembered, you had recall?
Well, you know why? Wow. Because I was so excited about I've never been on that boat before. I've never been on any boat like that before. And I'm looking at the quarters, and I'm looking at that thing has more bathrooms and more rooms in my house. And we're going through, and I'm just looking at this view of this yacht parked on the side of the Tampa Bay River. The sun is already down. You can see the city lights on some still water, and it's just absolutely gorgeous. So as I'm downing my last I think it was a Corona, and they're just asking me a question. They're like, yeah, hey man, I'll see you later. I have no idea who they are. I'm just kind of going with the flow, right? So then we come out, I'm like, okay, I got to go to bed. But so that was a little tidbit. After Rick's, we did have an extra little party. It was actually great. The whole meeting was great. I loved FRDA, and I love the fact that you're actually on the board. It's nice to know and see the people that years and years ago you've seen them move up. You've seen them get to where they can be. You see them taking those positions and really taking the bull by the horns. And now you're vice president of Impact RTO Holdings and the president of FRDA. Paul, I got to congratulate you. You're doing an amazing job for Rent to Own, yourself, and for everybody out there. I really want to say it's so nice talking to you and kind of just getting to hear your side of the story on everything.
God, well, it's has it been 2 hours? No, listen, I want to get to know you a little bit better as well. I mean, I think one of these podcasts, we need to turn the mic around and maybe I'll interview you, talk to you and let you tell those of us that don't really know maybe some details about you, get that out there as well. Pete, I think you're a remarkable guy. I remember the first time I met you in Wauchula, and you're running a store after Hurricane Charlie had just ripped through Port Charlotte and destroyed your store. And you were running your rent-a-center out of a trailer and magazines. And
yes.
And yet you were smiling. And I walked in and, I just remember I remember when I first kind of laid eyes on you, shook your hand, and you were just kind of just polite and you were happy and upbeat despite it being in a very, very difficult situation. And I said, man, this guy's got the goods. I really, really like him. So I know what you're saying. You're complimenting me. I've changed for my role for the better. And people along the way have helped me to put me in the right, they put me in the right positions to where I could grow. And I've read a lot of books along the way that have also helped me. And I've had unbelievable mentors and things like that. But I'm still the account manager that I was in 2001. I never forgot those days as well. I never forget meeting you. And I'm just Paul Metivier, man. I'm not the vice president of Impact RTO Holdings. That's a title. And the president of the FRDA, fine. I'm proud to represent and do things for not just my organization, but also our industry as a whole. But it's not who I am. Who I am is I'm the husband to Louisa Metivier for 23 years. We had our anniversary on July 15th.
Oh, congratulations.
I'm a father of twin boys. I'm a son, I'm a brother, and I'm a good friend to my same friends I've had since high school. And I like you, and I like what you're doing. And there's a lot of interesting stories out there about people within this industry. And and it can get way deeper, right? But I appreciate you just bringing me on and thinking that anyone would want to listen to me.
But trust me, there's a lot of people who want us to pick Paul's brain, and I'm going to tell you what, I really like that idea. Maybe we'll do that one day. Maybe we have to meet up and we're gonna change roles. Now I do not know what it's like to be on the other side of this mic, so I will tell you that would be a new thing for me. Danny and I had banter back and forth, but it was never really a interview type of situation. So I like the idea. We might have to try that out one good time. But I want everybody to know. We appreciate Paul coming on the show so much. Of course, everybody gets a shirt. So later you gotta let me know what shirt you want, what color, what size, and we'll make sure we get it over to you. And that's what works. But I'm going to ask you the Leroy Steen question of the day because I have not asked it, and I think I know the answer just based on what you said. But I'm going to ask it anyways. Are you a sales guy or are you a collections guy?
Both. Right. I'm a communications guy. So when it comes down to it, I'm all about making good personal connections with people, talking to them at their levels. That was what I learned most. So in terms of sales, I mean, I tell everyone I was a way better, I was great at account management. That is one thing. Like I said, I'll toot my horn on that. In terms of sales, though, what I was really good about was asking questions, getting to know people, gaining their trust, and forming great relationships. It served me well. I was never a great telemarketer. I did it, but I was really better with just talking to people or messaging with people, meeting them at their level, and getting them what they want. I was good at customer service. So if you want to say anything, I guess it was communication and customer service as it relates to both sides of those things. That's what I felt like.
So if you had to pick one, it would sound to me like you're more collections minded.
No, I wouldn't say that.
No,
and I'm not collections like at all. Account management. So I know so here we go. Like earlier, it's wordsmithing. It's credit, Paul. Just say it. I know there's somebody out there that says we would never say pick up. No, we do have to pick people up sometimes, but account management, though, solving problems or getting people to solve their own problems, having a good game plan, assessing situations right. To me, account management was more of a puzzle, and my brain likes puzzles. So I did enjoy that a lot. But then I started realizing it's the same thing on the other side of sales. If you ask the right questions, you help people solve their problem of what their needs are, and then you make a match, and so, okay, if I have to pick one, not collections, because who wants to pick things up? I mean, it helped me get in great shape. My wife liked that when I was an account manager. I was in the best shape of my life.
Right.
But in terms of just getting to know people and getting that degree in sociology that you can only get from a rent-to-own business from all different walks of life, like the account management is where I cut my teeth. So I guess I would have to say that because that's where I started.
See, I'm the same way.
I fell in love, man. I fell in love. And there's no doubt, man.
When I first started the business, I was definitely collections minded. And I don't know if that's because of Rent-A-Center and how we were trained. And I do always have to say I appreciate that training and I appreciate knowing that business first. But I would say at the end of my career, I'm more of a salesman. And not that it's a salesman mentality versus a collections mentality, but I think in the presentation and if I had to pick 51% over 49%, yeah, I'm the same. I like the personal engagement is probably what drives me the most. But if you guys have any questions that are for Paul, hit me up. You can DM me on Facebook at The RTO Show, Instagram, The RTO Show. Also, you can hit me up, Pete at the RTOshowpodcast.com, and email me directly. You can also go on the website, listen to this and any other thing that I have listed, including a couple of different things like getting swag or how to be a sponsor for the show at www.therrtoshowpodcast.com. Now, we haven't had anybody say that they want a ton of shirts, but we have sold a few. You get one for free, sir, so we're going to make that happen a little bit later on. That way, nice. When we're in RTO world, on your own time, I won't argue, you get to represent the show because you are one of the greatest to do this and to do what you do. And being on the show is just the representation of the kind of person you are. And we do appreciate that. And if anybody has any questions, please feel free to reach out. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the show because we do enjoy reaching out to everybody who is in the RTO industry and giving a little bit of everybody we know.
I wanted to thank you, Pete, and I appreciate it. I had a blast. I didn't know I'd enjoy this, but I actually enjoyed it.
See, that's what I'm saying. It's on the other side of everything we think. It's a good time. We do appreciate your time and everybody who's listening. We do appreciate you guys listening to me. Subscribe, hit me up if you guys have any questions. And by all means, remember, keep your collections low and your sales high. Everybody have a great day, and we'll catch you later.